Chair lays out on second reading HB 1365. Clerk will read the bill.
HB 1365 by Lucio, relating to authorizing the possession, use, cultivation, processing, distribution, transportation, and delivery of medical cannabis for medical use by patients with certain debilitating medical conditions, and the licensing of dispensing organizations and testing facilities, authorizing a fee.
Chair recognizes Mr. Lucio to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'm very thankful to be able to lay out House Bill 1365. Today, I don't just stand here as a member of this body, but rather as a voice for thousands of people in our state that are too sick to function or that live in constant debilitating pain. As many of you know, the issues of providing medical cannabis have been very near and dear to my heart for the past 2 sessions. Ironically enough, it's not exactly an issue I could have imagined working on. That was until I walked into my office one day and met a few mamas for the first time. Many of you know them as the passionate mothers that come to your offices to explain the importance of medical cannabis and how it drastically improves the condition of their children with autism. Members, today there are countless Texans enduring insurmountable pain as they battle diseases like cancer, autism, and PTSD. HB 1365 provides patients, caretakers, and our state as a whole with the opportunity to care for the most vulnerable members of our population. HB 1365 seeks to authorize the use of low THC medical cannabis for individuals suffering from debilitating medical conditions like cancer, autism, PTSD, neurological conditions like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Huntington's disease, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, muscular dystrophy, and multiple sclerosis. Our bill provides for independent third-party testing that would ensure accountability on the part of licensees while promoting the health of the consumers. This bill also has a significant medical research component by establishing Medical Cannabis Review Board to include 9 relevant medical specialists, which will advise on research projects, review medical literature, and research results to guide the program for scientifically sound dosages and formulations and the appropriate use of medical cannabis. This is undoubtedly a complex bill, members, but it has taken countless hours of time to develop a system we believe would work best to serve those in need. By combining needed patient protections and a comprehensive research component, this bill provides a framework to improve the lives of countless Texans in the near future. Members, look around the gallery. There are several patients and caregivers here today that are desperately looking for the help that they need. Let's step in the right direction, provide them with the care they deserve. And I believe there's a few amendments.
Following amendment, clerk will read the amendment.
Amendment by Middleton.
Chair recognizes Mr. Middleton to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, some of my Republican colleagues had some concerns with a couple areas of this bill, and I've been working with the author to remove the language in question. And basically what this amendment does is it removes the blanket provisions authorizing the Cannabis Therapeutic Research Review Board to add any medical condition they choose for which medical cannabis can be used. So this amendment will simply make sure that the legislature has the final say on any medical conditions covered in the compassionate use program. And I thank Chairman Lucio for working with me on this amendment to clarify the defined scope of the bill. It's acceptable to the author, and I move adoption.
Mr. Middleton sends up an amendment. It is acceptable to the author. Is there any objection to the adoption of the amendment? Chair hears none. The amendment is adopted. Following amendment, clerk will read the amendment.
Amendment by Zerwas.
Chair recognizes Dr. Zerwas to explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This is an amendment which simply states that instead of requiring 2 physicians from the specialty, which in some regions can be very difficult to find, it allows for the second physician to be a physician licensed in the state of Texas and who has the adequate medical knowledge in order to render a second opinion. And I believe it's acceptable to the author.
Dr. Zerwa sends up an amendment. It is acceptable to the author. Is there any objection to adoption of the amendment? Chair hears none. The amendment is adopted. Anyone else wishing to speak for, against, or on the bill? If not, Chair recognizes Mr. Lucio to close on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, in working on this piece of legislation the last 2 years, last session and this session, the stakeholders really won my heart. They're here advocating for their children, and as a parent, I was so empathetic of their plea for help. Veterans talking about all that they've suffered and how opioids ruined their life until the use of medical cannabis, and how I can relate as a dad when I heard their stories that they couldn't function as a father, they couldn't function as a husband. This really has been a labor of love for me in my office, and I'm truly grateful for your support. Many of you have come to me offering your support, lending your support. And with that, members, I move passage.
The question occurs on the passage to engrossment of HB 1365. A record vote has been requested by Representative Stickland. Record vote is granted. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Mr. Middleton voting aye. Show the chair voting aye. Show Mr. Phelan voting aye. Show Mr. Zedler voting aye. Show Mr. Stickland voting aye. Dr. Zarhus voting aye. Mr. Guerra voting aye. All voted. All voted. Being 121 ayes, 23 nays, 1 present not voting, HB 1365 is passed to engrossment. Members, the Speaker's desk is clear. If you have any announcements, please bring them down front.